I'm Sally, a 50-year-old housewife. Both of my children are now grown and have moved out, living independently. With them gone, I've started working from home in addition to managing my household duties. My husband has been incredibly supportive of this new chapter in my life. When I first started, I was only making about $200 a month, but over time, that amount steadily increased to $600, then $800. I'm really grateful to the clients who continue to give me work. My sister-in-law lives nearby with her family. She's my husband's twin, so she's the same age as him, and as it happens, I'm the same age as well. While we've been somewhat close from the start, I've never really liked her. Even casual conversation with her has always felt like a chore. My husband also shares my feelings. He's never been fond of her. She's always been arrogant, full of herself, and seems to enjoy looking down on others, a real show-off, which I find quite irritating. Her son, Tommy, who is also my nephew, has been bedridden his whole life. He's 24 now and has struggled with a severe illness since childhood, leaving him unable to move much. One day, I received a text from my sister-in-law, dripping with condescension. I'm off to Hawaii today, booked a luxury hotel and will be enjoying a whole week there. I guess you can't go, right? Because your poor little husband doesn't make enough money. You two must be such a sad middle-aged couple, probably on the verge of divorce. I'll be strutting around the beach in my swimsuit, turning heads. But you, with that matronly figure, no way. Your belly must be all saggy after having 2 kids. But I only have Tommy, so I'm still slim and firm. No one would ever guess I'm 50. Not like you, you fat old woman. How could she be so cruel? Yes, I have 2 children, and they were born close together, so my body didn't bounce back immediately. Even now, I can't say my belly is as toned as I'd like. I do have a matronly figure, but so does my sister-in-law. She might be overly confident in her appearance, but to me, we're on the same level. If she were truly beautiful and in perfect shape, maybe I could let her comments slide, but coming from her, why should I tolerate that? And what about Tommy? So what's happening with Tommy while you're gone? Are you leaving him somewhere or having someone come by every day, maybe even stay overnight? Huh, no way, that's too much of a hassle. He'll be fine just sleeping at home. I left some drinks and snacks by his bed. That's horrible. How can you just leave him like that? What? I don't need advice from someone like you who's never dealt with real hardship. My life's been ruined because of him. I wish I never had a son like that. Well, I'll take care of him then. I'm coming to get Tommy now. Do whatever you want. It'll be a relief if he's out of my hair. Fine, I'll be there soon. I drove over to her house. It's only about 5 minutes away. Since Tommy is bedridden and needs a special wheelchair, I took our station wagon, which can accommodate his needs. You really showed up for someone like him? Yes, I did. I care about Tommy. He's nothing but a burden, just lying around doing nothing at his age. And what about you? You're a full-time housewife, lounging around all day. Sounds like you're both a perfect match. I'm working remotely now. I'm not just lazing around. And not all housewives are slackers, you know. Remote work? That's not a real job. My husband and I both work full-time. You're basically just a housewife. It would serve you right to spend your life taking care of Tommy. Oh, is that so? Come on, Tommy, let's go. Tommy looked downcast, and I couldn't blame him. Hearing such cruel words from his own mother must be unbearable. I understand how hard it is to care for a sick child, but to say those things right in front of him is beyond harsh. Even if she needs to vent, she should do it away from him. It doesn't matter how old the child is, anyone would be hurt in that situation. After some effort, I got Tommy settled in at our house. When my husband, David, came home, he was surprised to see him. Tommy, what are you doing here? Uncle David, I'm sorry, your sister was going on vacation and planned to leave Tommy behind, so I brought him here. I should have talked to you first. No need to apologize. My sister must have lost her mind. Leaving him behind like that is just awful. Tommy, you're welcome to stay here as long as you want. We'll take good care of you. Uncle David. That's right, Tommy, don't worry about a thing. We've always loved having you around. Thank you, Aunt Sally. I can't stand my sister-in-law and her husband. They're the worst kind of people, selfish and cruel. But I've always liked Tommy. Despite his illness, he's incredibly compassionate and, above all, very smart. He might not have attended special education much, but he was naturally bright from the start. I've always thought of him as a genuinely intelligent kid. I later found out that my sister-in-law and her husband actually went to Hawaii, leaving Tommy behind. I couldn't believe it. What if something happened to him? They wouldn't be able to come back right away. My husband was just as shocked. My sister and her husband must be out of their minds, going to Hawaii and leaving Tommy alone. I know, I haven't taken care of him before, so maybe it's not my place to say this, but leaving him without arranging any care services or facilities. If she hadn't sent that message, Tommy would have been left here, and we wouldn't even have known. It's terrifying. Yeah, it's really horrible. I've never had to care for a child with a serious illness. My in-laws are still healthy and have always said they'd go to a senior home if they couldn't take care of themselves, so I've never been a caregiver. I didn't feel qualified to criticize my sister-in-law, but I still couldn't understand how she could just leave her son with only a drink and take off. Tommy's condition is severe enough that they could get welfare support, and if they needed to travel, they could have used short-term care facilities. My sister-in-law and her family returned from their trip and made a point of coming over to our house just to insult us. Here, we brought you a souvenir. It's perfect for you. What is it? Some seashells we picked up at the beach. We have plenty, so we're giving you some. We don't want them. Oh, really? Rejecting a gift? Maybe you'd prefer this piece of driftwood instead. We don't want any of it. By the way, how's Tommy doing? Tommy, I couldn't care less about that useless child. That's awful. How can you talk about your own son like that? What do you know? It's horrible, having a child only to find out he's severely ill. I want back all the money I spent raising him. You can only judge me because you don't understand what it's like to live for such a worthless son. Oh, is that so? Then about what you mentioned before, are you really okay with us adopting him? Do whatever you want. Who would be crazy enough to adopt a child like that? Are you out of your mind? It's not crazy. I'm serious. With that, I closed the door on them. My sister-in-law and her husband left without another word. My husband and I decided to adopt Tommy as our own, and from that moment on, he became our child. Although he had been deeply hurt by his biological parents' abandonment, he slowly started to find joy again in our home. Despite being bedridden, he could still use his hands, so he spent his time happily using tablets and smartphones while lying down. One day, Tommy was beaming with excitement. Guess what? My story is going to be published in a literary magazine. A literary magazine, really? Yeah, I've been writing novels as a hobby, since I'm bedridden. It's one of the few things I can do. It's a bit embarrassing, though. There's no need to be embarrassed. That's a wonderful hobby. Can I read it? Sure, this is the first one I wrote. I decided to read the short story Tommy had written. It was incredibly well-crafted and deeply moving. This is amazing. I'm blown away by how good it is. I can't even put my feelings into words. I just started writing on my tablet, and it got more attention than I expected. So, I wrote a longer story, and this one's getting published too. I had no idea you were so talented, I said, genuinely impressed. I showed the story to my husband, who's an avid reader, and he was just as amazed. This is incredible. It feels like true literature. Thanks. I really admire Fitzgerald and Hemingway. I'm also a fan of Dostoevsky and Hesse. That makes sense. The story has a melancholic tone, just like the works of those authors. Their writing is often sorrowful or even tragic. That's exactly what I was going for. Soon, Tommy's novel was set to be published in hardcover. He decided to use a pseudonym, Scott Weil. He chose Scott from F. Scott Fitzgerald and Weil from Hermann Hesse's Beneath the Wheel. Before long, books by Scott Weil were flying off the shelves. There was even a special section for his works at the local bookstore, which filled me with pride. Then Tommy won the Pulitzer Prize, and we were all stunned. I won the Pulitzer Prize, Tommy exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. That's incredible. You really worked hard for this, I said, beaming with pride. Oh, Tommy's extraordinary talent has finally been recognized by the world. There's nothing more rewarding, my husband added. Yes, even someone like me, confined to bed, can become a recognized writer. No one should ever give up on their dreams, Tommy said, his eyes shining with determination. I could learn a lot from you, I responded, inspired by his resilience. A press conference was quickly arranged. Since Tommy couldn't go on stage without assistance, we accompanied him. He needed to be seated in a special wheelchair, with his upper body secured. I carefully wheeled him into the venue, noticing how tense he seemed as we approached the flashing cameras. The live television broadcast began as soon as we were in position. I, Scott Weil, am a bedridden author. Since childhood, I've struggled with a serious illness, spending most of my time in bed, but reading books became my escape, and I decided that I wanted to inspire others through my writing. I'm deeply grateful to everyone who has read my books, and to my adoptive parents, who have supported me every step of the way. After his speech, the journalists began asking questions. Some were insensitive, probing into the reasons behind his adoption. Tommy responded calmly. My biological mother struggled deeply with my illness. Over time, she may have grown to resent me. I can't blame her for that. The room erupted with murmurs of disapproval. What a terrible parent. That's so heartless. But Tommy didn't want anyone's pity. Everyone has their own struggles, so please don't judge her here. I ask you to respect that. After the press conference ended, my husband and I helped Tommy back into the car. Our vehicle was specially modified to accommodate his wheelchair, making the transition easier. When we returned home, we found my sister-in-law and her husband waiting for us. Tommy, you won the Pulitzer Prize. I'm so happy for you. Why don't you come live with us again? My sister-in-law said, her tone suddenly warm and inviting. It was clear her attitude had changed, likely because she now saw Tommy's success as a potential source of income. No, I'm staying here. I'm not going back to that house. But I'm your real mother. My only parents are Sally and David. Then give us the prize money. No, this money is for my mom and dad, Sally and David. What? I'm the one who raised you all these years. You owe me that money. Absolutely not. Despite her being financially secure, my sister-in-law has always had a keen sense for money and a relentless desire for anything that might quickly turn into cash. She was determined to claim the $15,000 from the Pulitzer Prize, but Tommy stood his ground. I don't see you as my parents anymore. You insulted me when I was young. I didn't speak ill of you at the press conference, but you frequently expressed how much you regretted having me. You even said you wanted to abandon me, a worthless son. Do you know how deeply that hurt? I'm the one who should be upset. Having given birth to someone like you, you should be apologizing to me. I did nothing wrong. How dare you forget everything I did for you? Her husband joined in, demanding the money as well. Their greed was appalling, so vulgar. They boasted about their full-time jobs and financial stability, yet they acted so foolishly. I decided to fight back. You're so obsessed with money that you sell all sorts of things online, aren't you? Desperate to make a quick profit. What? Look who's talking, selling seashells and coral online. You think that's acceptable? People buy seashells to decorate their homes. It's not acceptable. Taking a few seashells as a souvenir is one thing, but coral is different. Even if you claim it's not a problem because it's not alive, it still contributes to the beach's ecosystem. Hawaii's regulations are clear. Taking coral is prohibited, and you could even face a fine for it. What? That's absurd. I refuse to accept that. Since you're selling them online, it's definitely against the rules. I'll be reporting you. We're going inside now. Goodbye. No, don't. I absolutely will. You're going to get caught. I can't wait to see it. With that, we quickly went inside the house. We wasted no time contacting the police. While it's not unusual for people to pick up a few seashells, I saw on the online marketplace that my sister-in-law was selling an enormous quantity of seashells and coral. It was an outrageous amount, suggesting she might be involved in illegal poaching. She may have thought it was acceptable to take coral as long as it wasn't alive. But ignorance doesn't excuse the violation of regulations. I also reported her on the marketplace, as I had just discovered the situation the day before. This felt like just retribution. Since then, my sister-in-law has had to deal with police investigations and fines. I hope this experience makes her reflect on her actions. She has been avoiding our house ever since, and I suspect she's afraid I might retaliate. Personally, I have no intention of causing her any more trouble unless she provokes me again, but I'm relieved that she's staying away. I hope it remains this way indefinitely. Meanwhile, I'm managing to take care of Tommy while working from home, with the assistance of a caregiver to help with his needs. It's challenging to care for someone bedridden, but I'm content to be there for him. I want Tommy to continue writing his novels without worry. I hope his work gains even more recognition worldwide. Our kids are now huge fans of Tommy's novels, and they'll be coming home soon. I'm looking forward to spending quality time together as a family.